Get your snack and beverage of choice ready. It's time to gather around the Trashfires for a tabletop role-playing story. I am your host, Bek Andrew Evans. My current and main running story for this podcast is the misadventures of the cohort from the Deviant, the Renegades chronicle I've been playing in since early 2021, and I play Geri. For those of you unfamiliar with Deviant, it's a TTRPG about people who were formerly human, but were irreparably changed in traumatic ways to the point their very souls broke and they became something other. They seek vengeance on those who made them, those who hunt them, and those who seek to exploit them for what they are and will never leave them be. As such, this podcast will feature heavy themes and content throughout. There's an overall content warning for language, violence, criminality, homelessness, substance use, human experimentation, cults and religious extremism, mentioned torture, kidnapping, implied incest and incest-related comments, and abusive relationships. On episodes where there's a new content warning or a particularly notable instance of one of these, I'll call it out. Hope y'all enjoy hearing about my cohort's antics and stumbling headfirst into the mysteries of the world as much as I have.
When I'm not near you, or when I'm okay. Now! Suddenly, I get this feeling that something's changing.
Green Country Calcination, Episode 11. The Great Cat Rescue. After Geri woke up screaming from her dream, she shared it. In vivid detail, she records it in a section of the journal she devoted to logging her special dreams. AJ announces he wants to do the uniform drop-off and all future dealings with Devante alone. No one objects heavily, though Geri requests the cohort be close enough by to be able to intervene should something go terribly wrong. AJ arranges his meeting to be the day they plan to next meet up with Grant anyway, just before. Madison has been working from various public Wi-Fi locations around town to begin her research and hacking. In a couple of days between meetings, Geri asks the universe for more clues on Grant's daughter's whereabouts and status. Unfortunately, she only has a name to go by that was only mentioned once, and she can't quite remember that. In her dream, she's lost in a sea of faces. There's too many relatives of Agatha to pick through. She's too confused to find anything useful other than realizing how truly vast the family is. Robert has recently been inexplicably pestering the cohort about his cat and derailing conversations about more theoretically pressing matters because he wants them to go retrieve his cat from his old house he hasn't returned to since his divergence. So the rest of the cohort, realizing it would take a lot more time and careful planning to rescue their new ally Grant's daughter from the church, give in to Robert. But they make him do the planning while they're focusing on Sophie and other conspiracy stuff, since it's his cat. Robert never gets back to anyone with a plan before the meeting. The cohort meets up where Madison had directed Grant to find them, at the Denny's nearest to Devante's shop. It's very early morning, with all the cohort except for AJ arrived at a secluded corner booth and beginning to eat. Zeus and Geri are competing for the most gremlin breakfast spread, though Zeus has an advantage with the huge chocolate bacon milkshake he ordered. Robert has a very normal hearty breakfast except with hot water to drink. Madison has a frap, avocado toast, and a laptop pulled out to work on the go. Geri's been very quiet since her horrific Blake death dream and hasn't gotten back to normal yet, though she's at least eating decently. She has her hair temp-dyed brown again and is wearing another forgettable t-shirt and jeans outfit. Zeus's hair is still dyed raven black and is wearing one of Madison's brother's hoodies that has the Cassica Hall Bulldog mascot, board shorts, flip-flops, and sunglasses. Robert's dressed head to toe in a jogging sweats outfit, plus mask, sunglasses, and gloves. Though he removes the sunglasses and pulls up the mask as much as he can indoors. Maddie's wearing an orange plaid short sundress, thin cream sweater left open, thick-soled white sneakers, matching oversized sunglasses, and coral lip gloss. She's back to her natural blonde. The cohort, as a whole, looks like an odd grouping this very early morning. As they're waiting and eating, Grant arrives. Cautiously, he makes a mental note of all the patrons, the exits. He spots the cohort before they spot him, and considers for a moment before approaching. He greets them and focuses on the newest face, Zeus, with extreme suspicion. The cohort, meanwhile, openly invite him to the table, as if they've known him longer than one meeting. The enemy of my enemy is clearly my friend, after all. Madison's excited he actually showed up. Grant admits it came down to a coin toss whether he'd actually come, and Zeus says that's still decent odds. Grant takes a seat with the cohort, at the edge, easiest to flee. He remarks he didn't realize they meant to actually eat there. Geri says she didn't either, but Zeus started ordering, so they all kinda did. Robert says they were hungry, but Grant doesn't need to feel pressured to order anything. Grant says he's full, so he'll skip it. AJ arrives then from his meeting with Deviant, looking more relaxed than he's been in a while. He's wearing a Batman joke shirt, washed out blue jeans, sneakers, and a beanie that's inexplicably inside out. Grant gets up to let AJ sit further in the bench seat and not get sandwiched between cohort members himself. He looks unsure whether he regrets coming or not. AJ greets everyone and calls the waitress over. Maddie tries to explain what she's doing, but uses so much Linux jargon no one can understand what she means. She also claims she's not a nerd when Robert asks her to use non-nerd language. Zeus is humming happily to himself quietly as he eats, which isn't exactly helping with the low profile, but is keeping anyone from making out what's being said at the table. He's swinging his feet under the table, occasionally lightly kicking Grant. Geri defends Maddie by pointing out that Robert drinking plain warm water is weird, but Robert is secure in his beverage choices. Maddie goes on trying to explain her computer speak, but she doesn't manage to make it much clearer. Robert asks if it's like a VPN, maybe? And Madison gives up and says that's close enough. A waitress comes by to check on the table. She eyes gremlins Geri and Zeus a bit with their food choices, but gives the table a polite smile. Grant orders black coffee in a to-go cup after all. AJ manages to outdo even Zeus. He's apparently starving and orders seemingly enough food for the whole cohort, for mostly himself, including a whole coffee pitcher with a plate of nachos to share. Grant is openly shocked by the order, and even Zeus does a double take. The waitress laughs in surprise and shuffles off to put in the order. When questioned about his huge order, AJ says he came here with an appetite. If he was already full, he'd go to one of those fancy tapas restaurants. Madison misses tapas, and AJ says they can simulate a fancy place by dumping most of her serving before giving her the plate. Now that everyone's here, Madison wants to get down to business. Robert wants to talk about his cat. He thinks rescuing his cat should be the business. Madison asks what the cat plan is, so they don't get caught. Grant is unamused, squinting at Robert. The waitress, Maggie, comes back with AJ and Grant's drinks, and the pitcher of coffee before leaving again. Robert thinks because it's night, early morning, he could just move too fast for anyone to see him nab his cat. Easy peasy. Plus, with clones, he can draw in his cat from more directions and use bait. Nothing can go wrong. While Robert's explaining his plan, Geri leans into Grant to update him on her progress toward finding Sophie. She tells him she tried to look for hints, but hasn't found out where she is yet. Geri immediately has Grant's undivided attention, and he asks how she's searching and where. AJ tries, really tries, to explain to Robert they need an actual, solid plan to not get caught. Since Robert's place is 100% going to be watched. Maddie asks why Robert can't just get his housekeeper to drop the cat off in some safe spot while pretending to go to the vet. It doesn't occur to her that not everyone has a housekeeper, including Robert. Robert explains he's been paying a neighbor girl a little bit to feed his cat and walk it. He further clarifies the girl is 15, and he gave her an advance payment for a long expected absence when he was getting his affairs in order to be sent inpatient at the hospital. Robert is lightly frustrated the others don't think his speedy form will be fast enough to dodge cameras in a quiet neighborhood, so says they all should brainstorm a plan together, even though it was meant to be his job. Maddie says it's less cameras, more people in government vans that are looking for weird powers and that maybe have some too. Geri explains to Grant that while she hasn't found Sophie yet, she can get information in dreams, but Agatha has too many damn descendants for her to sort through. Grant asks if a photo might help, and Geri figures it can't hurt. She's still learning. Grant takes out his wallet and slides out a small picture of a little blonde girl smiling with her front tooth missing and hands it to Geri. AJ asks Grant, after draining his first cup of coffee in record time, how the church kidnapped his kid. Grant takes a bit to decide whether he wants to answer. In the meantime, Maggie comes back to drop off the big plate of appetizer nachos. When she leaves, Grant decides to continue. He and Sophie weren't supposed to stop in Tulsa, but there was a storm. A huge one. He knew it was a bad idea. He knew not to stop in the green country, but he stopped at a motel for the night. He woke up to Derek and some others breaking into the room, taking Sophie. He wasn't able to stop them. He did tear the door off its hinges. The cohort expressed their hatred for Derek, and Grant agrees, says he'll tear him apart. Maddie says it'll take a group to fight him, and Grant agrees to that too. It's why he's with the cohort. Maddie says she actually wants to hurt Derek, to break whatever commandment she's got him, because he hurt her friend Cass too. AJ says he definitely wouldn't mind using Derek for the trade-in deal with Devante, and he's nicknamed Devante D. Geri asks if Serena was at the kidnapping, though describes her as a church Becky. She wasn't. Madison asks if Grant has somewhere safe he's staying in town, and Grant says he's been motel hopping, paying cash at the seedier places. Madison offers he can crash with the cohort, and he says he'll think about it, assuming they don't die rescuing a cat. AJ is shocked Maddie didn't consult the rest of them first before offering to let Grant move in and join the cohort. Maddie says it's obvious he should because he's one of them, working together and against the same enemies. Zeus meows at Grant to confirm they are indeed doing the cat rescue mission before going back to his massive pile of food. Grant stares at the bizarre little android in confusion. Geri only semi-sarcastically says they'd better watch out for Chris Hansen looking into this lump sum paid to the 15-year-old. Maggie shows up to deliver the massive amount of food while Robert and Maddie argue whether or not Maddie's normal again. Maddie also doesn't know who Chris Hansen is. Robert and Maddie ask for refills on their drinks, and Robert's warm water request gets a bit of a squint from the waitress. AJ coos in awe at his plates of food and has a sudden idea while his mouth is full. He can't wait to share it with the waitress before he swallows, and no one can understand him. Maddie ews and swats at him. Geri gives him a side eye. Apparently, he already wants to know if they have a separate dessert menu. The waitress patiently shows him where it is, comments on his appetite again, and asks the odd assortment of remade if they've been out on the town. She's staring at Zeus and Madison the most. The cohort, following AJ's lead, improv a backstory that they're an extended family. Robert and Grant are Maddie's two dads, AJ is a cousin, and Geri and Zeus are also related somehow. They're on a cross-country road trip to Los Angeles. Because they're in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the waitress feels the need to somewhat awkwardly tell the couple to stay strong and be themselves and that she voted for the Democrat, feeling good that she met some real-life gays and was nice to them as she leaves. The cohort flatter the waitress for her kindness. AJ starts reading through the dessert menu while still chowing down on his burger and other food. Grant asks when they're leaving, because he doesn't want to have to make out with Robert to keep up the act. Robert's too square for his type. Maddie says as soon as they get refills. Geri says as soon as Robert suggests a plan that isn't shit. Zeus, the forever mentally and physically early 20s twink of an android, asks if he gets to be the grandfather. Maddie says yes. Zeus attempts acting older and more dignified in response, meticulously blotting syrup off his mouth with his napkin. AJ gives Maddie puppy dog eyes because he desperately wants to get a huge tower of dessert waffles. Maddie says just get them to go, but also, she's stealing one. AJ thinks if Grant wasn't pretending to be his uncle, he would be a better fit for dating him, though they're close to a decade apart. Grant doesn't respond to that, just eats nachos. Robert finally has another plan. He wants to sneak through people's lawns from a couple blocks away and have Maddie or Zeus cut the power to his house. Then he can zip in super speedy to grab his cat and zip back out, and they're all good. Geri wants to know how he's mitigating dogs barking or other obstacles running through yards at 4 a.m. Maddie figures at least it's better than the front yard. Robert claims he's trying, frustrated he's getting questioned about his plans. AJ asks if the kid Robert is paying is actually responsible. If she walks the cat at a set time, they might be able to intercept her on the walk. Robert wonders if the conspiracy would be watching the cat sitter too. AJ figures if the routine's so boring and stable, eventually they'd get lazy and bored and not watch as closely if they ever really were. Robert says she walks the cat every morning before school. Geri says he has a lot of faith in a 15-year-old. Robert doesn't think he has too much faith. He paid her, after all. Geri reluctantly agrees to try to intercept the cat on the walk. AJ suggests Zeus can connect to traffic cams, maybe. Zeus is way too excited for this job, because he doesn't even notice his sunglasses slip down a bit and expose his oddly pixelated silver irises, but Madison fixes them for him before others see. Maggie comes back with the refills. She asks about dessert orders, and AJ gives his, to go. Grant asks for the check. Maggie asks if it'll all be one check, and Zeus announces that Grandpa's got it and pays in cash with a large enough tip that she doesn't say anything about it. After Maggie leaves, AJ chides Zeus for deciding on Grandpa when even Gabriel settled for Uncle. Zeus just says that he's the oldest, and it's okay. Some people settle for less. Madison encourages him. Geri sighs. Grant looks like this exchange is torture. Not too long after, Maggie comes back with the receipt and AJ's dessert in to-go carriers all packed away. She also helps put any unfinished food in to-go plates and wishes them well on their trip. The group all head to the minivan, which AJ had taken for his trip to Deviant's. AJ mentions Devante told him the Supernatural Society is aware of the Longman Society, and overall thinks they're trying to create superhumans to combat vampires and demons and robots and whatnot. Like humanity's defense against other supernaturals. Robert thinks it's counterproductive to make more supernaturals to fight the supernatural. Maddie thinks it sure sucks to be the society since the cohort isn't going to fight for them. Robert suggests they can show Grant the cohort's cabin, and Grant's frustrated they're not going right to get the cat already. Robert explains since it's 4 a.m., the cat walking won't happen for another several hours. Grant follows in his own car so he can park at the cabin. The cohort plus Grant make the hour trip back to the cabin, have a small tour, a quick nap for some, and the hour or so trip back to South Tulsa. AJ is way too caffeinated and sugared up to have a nap. Grant doesn't unpack anything, just inspects the place. On the trip back, there's cops out and about along the route just before dawn. They pass some accidents. There's a few close calls and tense moments, but they manage to travel without getting stopped. Zeus is unmerged and obeying all the traffic laws as he drives, particularly when they get close to Robert's neighborhood, Broken Arrow, located on the southwest side. AJ asks Grant why he gets so tense whenever they see cops, and Grant has to explain the people after them are probably always looking out for them to so much as get a ticket, even if there are no warrants for them. He explains his philosophy of living completely off the grid, always. No cards, no IDs. He doesn't exist. Maddie completely agrees with him. She's happy to have someone who understands. Grant also says he doesn't file taxes because he does all his work under the table. But he doesn't exist anyway. Maddie doesn't understand that bit, but Geri gets it. Maddie has a story of how one of her rich friends got audited and all their stuff got seized. Geri says they only care about not filing if you owe any. She is very confident about this. Like most things she says. She is not necessarily correct. Grant admits he's probably doing crimes, but he's not making enough to own a house or anything like that. Robert suddenly calls Zeus a dumbass for going straight to the address. Geri tells him to actually give directions instead of chatting. Zeus stops the van 4 blocks away. Robert says that's perfect. They're supposed to catch the cat during the morning walk. Geri gently gives the radio a sympathetic pat, even though Zeus isn't currently emerged. Grant, incredulously, asks if Robert's just asking for his cat back. Robert affirms that's his plan. Zeus informs everyone that school starts in 1 hour. Grant notices that nosy neighbors are noticing the van. This is too nice of a neighborhood for a random beater van driving around. Maddie suggests they should probably ditch the van after this outing. Grant agrees. Grant isn't sure if any of the people searching for them are here, just that he doesn't see them yet. Geri asks what the cat looks like. AJ jokingly says a cat being walked by a tired dean. Robert poetically describes a beautiful gray cat with golden eyes and a chip in one ear. Grant and Geri keep watching. Grant asks where the walking route is. Robert says there's a park a block away from where they are. AJ asks Zeus how to get him into the traffic cam system. Zeus doesn't see any traffic cams and hasn't for a few blocks. It's too residential. AJ asks Geri to boot up the Minecraft, and Geri introduced Grant to it without warning. The cohort quickly explained via telepathy what the Minecraft is, how to use it, and Maddie explains with full guilt trip to Geri that she doesn't look inside people's brains without consent. Right? It takes Grant a little bit to adjust and figure out how to use it and project his thoughts correctly instead of speaking, but he does. AJ's mildly annoyed he didn't get to trick the noob that their psychic voices were their future selves warning him how to avoid catastrophe. Madison promises he can do that to the next person. Geri's psychic power flares strongly and she senses other nearby minds when she boots up the Minecraft. She catches glimpses of their surface thoughts for a brief moment, curiosity about the van, wondering who owns it. She lets the others know. Robert says he's just gonna walk up to the girl real fast and ask for his cat back. Tell her he's got a super rare disease and has permission to bring his cat with him back to the hospital. Geri tells him that's a terrible idea. Don't fucking do that. Grant suggests just tell her he wants his cat back. Robert says he doesn't want to make the girl feel guilty by stealing the cat. Geri asks if that's even his cat. Everyone tells him to just keep it simple. No details. Don't get spotted. AJ also asks if it's his cat. Robert yells yes. Geri tells everyone to hurry the fuck up. More people are noticing. AJ says maybe they should drive around instead of just sitting in the clunker van. Maddie says if the girl's even still walking the cat, she's cutting it awful close to being late to school. Robert is certain she will be there. By now, it is very sunny outside. Not a cloud in the sky. Robert is in a nice neighborhood, dressed covered head to toe in his sweats jogging outfit, mask pulled down, and sunglasses. It's the middle of April. Robert leaves the minivan to go get his cat. Madison wishes him luck and tells him to not get arrested for being a predator. Grant stares as Robert leaves the van and asks why he's dressed like that. The cohort tells him Robert's allergic to the sun. Geri's about ready to punch something. Grant asks why they're sending him then, in the middle of the day. Robert says he'll show the teen his face. It'll only hurt for a little bit. Grant's having some serious second thoughts about joining the cohort now. Maddie makes it clear that this was all Robert's idea and he should live his best life. Geri hates everything about this. Robert says he's not dead yet, but if they count him as dead, to not drink too much. Madison promises she'll drink a ton. Robert's walking, at normal speed, to the park. AJ shouts at him over the Minecraft that the cat sitter's gonna need a drink and lots of therapy. Robert promises he'll only be 30 seconds. He still hasn't seen the cat sitter. The whole cohort is psychically yelling at him now. Maddie asks Zeus for a charge, in case she needs it. Zeus smiles and reaches over to touch her hand. Sparks jump between them and the girl absorbs it all without injury. About now, the whole neighborhood is noticing the freak covered head to toe wandering around in the middle of April from a sketchy van. They're keeping their distance. Geri has an idea. She connects to as many nosy neighbors as she can at once, until she can get them all. She pretends to be their idle, innocuous thoughts as she projects, "Did I forget my phone?" into all their heads. All the neighbors watching the van pause, pat themselves down, mumble, and wander back into their houses. They're too distracted by that idle inserted thought to do anything about the strange van or the stranger individual at the moment. Robert finally reaches the park, but there is no girl, and there is no cat. He starts panic shouting in the Minecraft, wondering why she isn't there and where his beloved cat Crunchy could be. Madison tries to explain she's probably on her way to school. Robert laments he can't even check his home, which is where AJ thinks the cat is. Grant tells Robert to get his ass back to the van. Madison agrees and tells him they can try another time. Zeus offers to drive by the house. Geri says they might as well. They already came out this far. Zeus says they may not get another chance because of how much attention Robert has drawn, this time with his outfit. When Robert gets back, Geri tells him to give one of the others his keys, and they'll probably draw less attention getting into his house. AJ volunteers Grant to do it, since the society probably doesn't have him on their radar, yet. The cohort agrees, and thus begins hazing the new guy by making him rescue a normal cat. Grant asks if Robert at least has a cat carrier, and says he's doing this on the condition they're gonna go bomb the Church of Charismatic Virtues next. He doesn't. Robert doesn't have a cat carrier. He swears his sweet baby Crunchy loves being carried, but he's totally for bombing the church. They all bicker a bit over the details of bombing a church, even an evil church, and how careful they're going to be to make sure hostages are out first. All while in a neighborhood they don't fit into, on a time crunch, in the middle of the action. But Grant agrees to rescue Crunchy. Zeus is super unbothered by the bickering and last-second planning as he drives them to Robert's house, humming along to the Beatles on the radio. He's using a burner phone he merged into his forearm as GPS navigation. They arrive, and the cohort looks around for anything suspicious, staying in the van. On first glance, everything seems perfectly normal. Grant asks if there's an alarm, and Robert says not if he uses a key. He also gives Grant the security system code. AJ, helpfully, gives Grant his googly eye and sticker-covered creations and briefly explains how and why to use them, and wishes him luck. Grant stares at the devices and the whole cohort with his seemingly constant look of, what the fuck? He tells them not to ditch him and exits the van. Geri asks if Robert pays some neighbor kid to mow his lawn, because it's super well kept for Robert to have been gone a couple months. Madison assumes it must be Robert's gardener, but he doesn't have one. Grant's internally nervous, but externally chilling like he belongs there. Robert says Grant's free to break anything he needs to if there's trouble, because Robert can't live there anymore anyway. Grant looks under the doormat for the key and, sure enough, the spare's right there. Maddie's sparking from stress in the van. Geri scans the house with telepathy, trying to connect to anything in there, and doesn't sense any minds. She lets the cohort know. But she also says she can't sense Dr. Werner's mind, and so that's not a guarantee. AJ's looking around and asks Robert if the electric company's been working there lately, because all the wiring for the nearby houses are new. Robert doesn't remember. Grant says if he dies for a cat, the cohort needs to rescue Sophie for him. And they tell him he won't die, but sure. Grant unlocks the front door and enters the house. It's tidy and spacious, with lots of windows on the ground floor, and seems empty. He keeps his wits about him and searches for the cat in the kitchen area. It's an open floor plan, so it's easy to find, but something seems wrong. Then AJ warns him he thinks the electric's been fucked with, just as Grant notices the security system isn't just off. He doesn't have any power to it. Grant also reminds AJ what his name is, since AJ keeps calling him Gratty. Grant asks where Robert keeps the cat food, but when Robert says basement, Grant grabs the nearest shakeable food, a box of crackers. He starts shaking it to call the cat to him. Grant tells the cohort about the powered-off security system, and Robert has no idea about it, so says to hurry up. The rest ask if he needs backup. He doesn't for now. AJ says the two options are that it could have been mistakenly not hooked back up when the electric was worked on, or there could be an alternate one in use. And since Murphy's Law tends to apply with them, it's probably the second option. Maddie thinks it might be a monitoring system. Grant tells them to keep a lookout. They are, particularly Geri. Crunchy peeks her head out from around a corner and upon seeing not Robert, scurries off down to the basement. Grant groans and keeps shaking the cracker box as he follows the cat, but this time he shifts his features to match Robert. When Crunchy meows again, he calls back with Robert's voice. Crunchy slinks forward, suspicious, but willing to investigate. The cohort notice a sleek black sedan 3 doors down with a driver sitting in it. Robert points out that's the house of the neighbor girl who cat sits for him, but that isn't her parents' car that he remembers. Geri targets telepathy on the driver. For a brief couple of moments while she attunes to the driver, the tune of a babbling river, the Longman song, leaks into the cohort's Minecraft network before Geri shunts them off to a private link. She immediately knows they're a society agent. Madison was about to leave the van to assist Grant with the electronics inside, but at the song, she freezes completely with a blank expression. Geri searches for who the driver is, what they're hiding, and what they want right now. She finds his name is Agent Knox. He's hiding that they lied to the girl's family. Robert's not a pedophile. He wants to get sights on the escapees. Grant baby talks Crunchy, calling her over and saying her moron daddy is home in the sweetest pet owner voice. Crunchy trots over toward the fake Robert at a pace fitting of a cat upset at an owner who abandoned her for so long, but she's excited he's back. Geri explains what she found over telepathy, especially that there's a society agent right there. Grant says he'll drop Robert's face before he exits. Also that he's gonna kill Robert. Madison is confused. She isn't sure what she was gonna do before. Geri asks if it was the river sound. Maddie thinks she just spaced out. Sue seems to recognize Knox's name and gets lost in thought. Grant notices there's a new security system panel that's sparked to life. It now says, transmitting open signal. He asks the cohort what the message means. AJ says to get out if he doesn't have the cat. Maddie says it's nothing good. It's transmitting information off-site. Grant calls Crunchy again, and she finally runs over to circle around and rub her owner's legs. He scoops the kitty up and looks for the leash. The security system changes to signal received, and then back to transmitting opened signal. The leash is out in the open, so Grant clips it on and starts shifting back to his normal form. Kitty Cat flips her shit, hissing and flailing and scratching him, but she's not getting far because leash. He starts running toward the door. He tells the cohort that the leash is on and he's coming. Robert cheers. Grant says that doesn't change that he still wants to throttle Robert. Robert promises to make him breakfast as a thanks. AJ says Grant can take Robert's room and Robert can sleep on the tree for dragging them through this. Robert starts arguing with the cohort and trying to make demands, but none of them are taking his shit. Geri even elbows him. Robert whines that he did his best and didn't ask to be allergic to the sun. Grant's harsh with Crunchy, telling her to shut the fuck up when he hears the security system say in a robot voice, "Advanced motion detected." He strolls outside once he makes it to the door, pretending nothing is wrong. Grant shouts in the Minecraft about the new security message and tells everyone to get ready. Robert pulls a knife. AJ asked if that was really his best, to run out in a streaker outfit to meet a 15-year-old for a rescue mission he did no prep work for. Another black sedan turns onto the street. The cohort urge Grant to run. Grant books it, dragging the poor hissing cat along with him. A SWAT van joins the other vehicles a few blocks behind. Grant dramatically jumps into the van and Crunchy follows because leash and gravity. Robert tries to cuddle the poor thing, but she promptly hides under a seat, hissing furiously at anyone that tries to touch her. Grant pulls out his gun he got from Deviant. They all shout in the Minecraft for Zeus to drive. Robert says he can cut through the lawns to get to the next street. Zeus throws off his hoodie, leans forward, and merges his arms into the steering column and console. A minivan normally has no right to have the kind of handling he needs it to have for a chase, but with a little boost from a chaotic escaped cyborg, it just might. Zeus rams the corner of Knox's sedan as they pass, sending it spinning and creating a roadblock for the other vehicles. The cohort slam into each other inside on the sharp turns. Madison gives Grant a hard zap, apologizing profusely. The wound heals in seconds, to both their surprise. Wisps of scarlet psychic energy spill off of Geri and melt spots of the inside of the van. AJ's screaming out loud at Robert that if he gets shot because of Robert's fucking cat, Robert will beg to sleep on the tree. Zeus eventually evades the pursuers and heads toward the highway. In his characteristically inappropriately chipper tone, he reminds them to wear their seatbelts. AJ was already buckled, but the rest of them scrambled to buckle it. Madison explains to Grant that she charged up extra for a potential fight, but sometimes she accidentally discharges. Grant tells her to aim at Robert. Zeus fully merges into the van, leaving just a pile of clothes in the driver's seat. The van changes slightly. The color and model altered a bit. It's now gray, still a Dodge minivan. Maddie asks if he can change the license plate, and he's able to mix around the existing numbers that time, but not come up with new ones. AJ says they can't go to the cabin right away to make sure they aren't tracked there. Maddie tries to suggest hotels, but all the ones she knows are too nice to accept paying in cash and no IDs. Geri thinks really hard and then starts to remember a lot. She remembers directions to a motel she'd only been to once as a small child and suddenly starts rattling them off to Zeus, though not by street names mostly. She uses place markers, including a paisley-patterned couch in an abandoned gas station. Maddie's arguing with the others on the way there, particularly AJ. AJ quickly apologizes for his hurtful words said in stress. Zeus pops open the glove box to offer some stashed packs of Skittles to the cranky remade. Maddie wonders if Cass is going to be okay for the night without them there. And AJ says she's got Nacho and Snuggle Luke to keep her company, and Real Luke to keep her safe. They arrive exactly where Geri directed them to. The couch is even there in all its moldy, decayed glory. The motel is exceedingly cheap and has something resembling an office at the end. Grant and Geri go in to rent 2 rooms. Maddie hopes they have room service, and is devastated to learn motels are different than hotels. And this one in particular has a few vending machines with a bunch of highly dubious food and empty salt and pepper shakers. The only coffee available is also The room's coffee. Grant teases Madison a little and tells her it'll be fine. If there are any bedbugs, she can just electrocute them. Thanks for listening. This has been Gather Round the Trashfires with Bek Andrew Evans. Please subscribe to this podcast for future updates and leave a review or comment. I'd love to hear what you think. You can follow me on a few different social platforms with the username Bek Andrew. That's BEKANDREW. No spaces on Tumblr and Blue Sky mainly. If you'd like to support me, subscribe to my Patreon at patreon.com/BekAndrewTTRPG and purchase my art prints and tabletop products, including my Deviant the Renegades community content novella related to this chronicle via my link tree in the description. AJ is played by Rowan. Geri is played by me. Madison is played by Sin. Robert is played by Pandito. And our storyteller is Casey Grant. The intro theme is _Violence by Avantist from the Free Music Archive, licensed under Creative Commons Attribution International 4.0. The end theme is Time Will Fail Us by Troigo from the Free Music Archive, licensed under Creative Commons Attribution International 4.0. If you like the songs, I encourage you to check out more of their work. I've linked their Bandcamps in the description. Until next time.